So this talk will be given in Norwegian English, following the proud traditions of Gro Harlem Brundtland and Thorvald Stoltenberg and the other guy. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to do this in English just to make you guys suffer as much as I do when I'm on stage. So bear with me. The talk has been rebranded into How to Inject Fun, because you can do this regardless of what programming language you're currently in. So throughout this talk, if there are some .NET developers here, you can just replace Java with .NET, and what I'm saying will probably make sense, and you should do the same things. So if you hear Java and you're a .NET person, just replace them. I think it should be worthwhile. So who am I? My name is Espen Dalløkken. I'm 37.5 years old. I work at Finn.no in Oslo, Norway. I'm the lead developer of the front-end core team. I've been doing web development since 1998. I'm also one of the organizers of the Web Rebels conference in Oslo. So this is funny, by the way. I just realized, because I've been giving this talk twice before, and I didn't realize there's actually a person there. So I was, and it's not me. It's not a photo of me having a bad time after some party. So I was kind of curious when I noticed there was a person there. So this is not a picture of me. This is about a story. So this is the story about something we've been working on at Finn for the past couple of years. So the issue we had was that whenever we were doing pet projects or personal projects, we had all these amazing tools available. We could go online and use Bower or NPM and all this cool stuff. And we were being really productive, and we were making a lot of values to users without any issues. However, whenever we were coming back to work, we were only surrounded by tools that prohibited us from being productive. They were forcing us not to do things in a certain way, and we couldn't tap into this amazing ecosystem that was happening elsewhere. So what we realized that in order for us to actually continue to grow as developers and improve in our jobs, we needed to change something. Because the fact of the matter is that Java web development is broken. As a platform, it's not usable anymore. The tools are old and they're outdated. The frameworks are bloated and outdated, and there really is no ecosystem or working community trying to push things forward. Well, that's a pretty bold statement, but I've been working with Java web development for over a decade, so I should know. And I know there's some frameworks coming out like Play, and there are people trying to make things better, but in general, it feels like a broken platform, and it's not a very nice environment for front-end developers. And one of Java's many weak points are the tools available for us as web developers. In general, there's very little innovation happening, and if a tool actually happened to exist, the chances of it being updated and continue to grow depending on new technology coming out is very slim. And the Java community as a whole just can't keep up with what's happening in the Ruby, PHP, Python, or Node communities. And that's not just my opinion, that's just the fact. You can look around and that's the fact. All these other communities are cranking out new amazing tools every day, whereas the Java community is still lagging behind 2, 3, 4 years. And here are some of the easy targets to attack. The build tools are usually crap, and they usually can't do much. The automation tool for JavaScript tests, they exist, but they're still not very usable, and you'll always have a problem keeping up to date with where the development is actually happening, which is in other platforms. Code quality tools are generally pretty bad. It's hard to tap into module ecosystems like NPM and Bower. There exist tools that enables you to do this, but not in a very smooth way. And you also have problems getting new language features in, like you can use Tracor. Sure, you can get that to work in Maven, but it's generally not as pleasant. And you have stuff like CSS compilers. Sure, some of them exist as plugins in Maven, but as front-end developers, it's tedious to work with. And Nashorn won't save anyone. So Nashorn is the thing that Oracle is putting out that enables you to run JavaScript on the server. So it will get better. Performance-wise, it's still too damn slow to be used in a production environment, like for server-side rendering on the fly. And my personal opinion, so this is my opinion, this is not a fact. Oracle has never cared about web development or web developers. And I base this opinion on evidence. So who in here has used Java server faces? Yeah, I'm so sorry for you guys, you know. It's probably the most hostile web development platform on earth. And that's, I know ASP.NET, Java server faces is far worse. JavaFX, another terrible idea that they're actually still pushing. There was a talk at JavaZone about JavaFX. I don't know why. So in general, they don't care about web developers. They will never care about us. So putting your money on Oracle saving you as a front-end developer, my guess is you will lose. So this is where Node.js comes in. And the reason why I love it is because it empowers me as a web developer. I can write any tool anywhere in the stack without having to learn anything new, and that's brilliant. No, learning is good, but you get the idea. I can fix and patch almost any tool that I want, because they're usually available on GitHub. So any bug I have is one pull request away or one issue filed, and then someone else fix it. Whereas previously, I had to find some Java guy and explain to him what the situation was. You know, I want this JavaScript thing to be compressed or whatever. The Java guy would be, no, I'm busy doing this front-end server back-end thing. And then I would have to learn the most useless skill on earth, which is to write Maven plugins. I mean, come on, you know, you don't want that skill. So that is what is beautiful about Node. It empowers me as a web developer to create the tools that I want, fix the tools that I use, and basically take control of my own happiness. So that sounds pretty great, right? So some of you might be consultants and thinking that, you know, why aren't you just pushing Node in, you know, to hell with the Java people? Why don't you just write everything in Node? And sure, you can do that sometimes. So this is a picture of Ulvensplitten in Oslo. I assume you're pretty accustomed to roads being developed here in Trondheim too, like taking the bus into the city center. I noticed that you're quite the fans of reorganizing your roads as we are in Oslo. So the thing is that whenever we do things like this, traffic needs to continue to flow. We can't shut down one of the two roads that can get you out of Oslo. So traffic needs to continue to flow, but we still have to make huge changes. And that's pretty similar to the situation at Finn.no. So the architectural changes that you need in order to bring in Node are similar to like improving an existing road. Closing down a road is not an option. Gradually changing things takes a bit longer, but it reduces risk and it keeps traffic flowing. So sadly, there wasn't going to be a revolution. And I'm a socialist. I love revolutions. We should always have revolutions. But in this case, I had to say, no, we can't have a revolution. Because we had to stay open for business. There was no option just putting everything in Node, making 100+ developers unproductive over a period of time just to make me happy. That was not an option. I could not do that. And making this drastic change would influence all of our continuous integration tools and it would affect our ability to deliver customer value. So making just a radical switch like over the weekend was just not going to happen. There were too many people and too much at stake, you know. And like Henrik Knieberg said, our code doesn't matter, you know. If I'm happy writing Node, but nothing is coming out, you know, that doesn't solve anything. So we had some constraints. Everything about our continuous integration pipeline was centered around Maven. We had to use Atlassian Bamboo, and we had to make it fit into the Finn pipeline, which is a custom tool that we wrote which pushes out modules continuously every day, tons of them. And our web applications were all Java modules built with Maven, and there was one requirement for all of them, that you should be able to run Maven install and that's it. And then you should just fire up Tomcat in your IDE or whatever. So those were the constraints. So we couldn't just say, oh, you need to just run everything with Node instead. That was not an option. Luckily, Java has some Achilles heels. It should be plural, actually. Some of the biggest pain points as a company was that Java had no decent mechanism for front-end dependencies. And by that, I mean decent mechanisms. Making a JavaScript file into a web application resource is not a decent mechanism. The quality tools were a mess, and assembling web applications with existing tools were not very pleasant, at least the ones we were using at the time. So what we started off with was replacing our JavaScript test runner with something called Karma. We took the least controversial approach. We used it as a Maven plugin. And what we did was we snuck in some Node awesomeness for front-end coders. So it was a small win, but we weren't quite there. So, but luckily, so who in the room knows who this is? Okay, some of you. So we're not all young kids here. So this is a comedy TV series from the mid-'80s called The Black Adder with Rowan Atkinson. He's a evil, conspiring, useless. Was he a count or something? I'm not sure. Anyways, if you haven't seen it, Google it, The Black Adder. It's hilarious because he always had a cunning plan. And so did we. Because we could have done like the Maven exec plugin, you know, which basically allows you to run anything from the command line using Maven. So we couldn't do that because it would force 100+ people to install Node, know what Node is, keep it updated with versions, security fixes, and all of that stuff. And we also had to fix like the entire continuous integration rig if you were to use this approach. So we could have done that, but in order to make the transition even smoother, we decided to create a Trojan horse. So Erik Sletteberg wrote something called the Maven front-end plugin, which is probably the most awesome name ever, because nobody's going to know what the hell that is, right? What the hell is a Maven front-end plugin? What does it do? I don't know. I have no idea. Don't care, was the thing that most of the back-end developers said. Just a front-end thing. We don't care about it. So what it does is that it actually, in total secret, almost, downloads Node and NPM into the project folder. It configures and looks and quacks like a normal Maven plugin. And the only thing you'll see is a little bit more Maven log gibberish than usual, but you know, whoever pays attention to that, right? So this was an act of pure genius. So let's see. What does genius look like? So, can you see all right? So here it is. Nothing suspicious going on here. So you pull in the front-end Maven plugin, and you could name this something else just to like cover your tracks. So here you specify which node version and which npm version. So you can have this control with like a 7 Maven, POM, whatever thing to make sure that all the projects run the same version if that's a big deal. And that's it, you know? So let's see. So if I say Maven, so this is a project. Don't you just hate it when people can't spell on stage? So, did anyone see anything? No. You know, just some front-end Maven thing doing something. So usually it would take longer, but I didn't dare to download Node on stage. You know, that would just never work. So here we go. So you'll see in the Node folder, there is Node and npm, right? So that's pretty cool. So what we can do once we have that in place is that we can do something like run npm test. So that was what I was talking about earlier, right? Because I said that we added some Node awesomeness with the Karma Maven plugin. So what that awesomeness was just a package JSON in here, and then we can configure Mocha as the test runner. So what it did is that we can run Maven test, and it would, you know, here it says my awesome module passing, you know, it's great. And if I do something like, so I can also run npm test, which is the same command. So what I can also do is that I can set up nodemon to have the test run continuously. So there you see it breaks, and I can fix it back to true, and it passes. So this was a huge win for us because we were actually able to leverage some pieces of Node and actually do proper TDD testing on our JavaScript code. So this was, you know, a step in the right direction. So, but we can do better. Or there's one more thing, as some people say. So we can also do things like we can run compression on our JavaScript using Uglify. So I'm being lazy, so I'm adding everything into the package JSON. So here we run Uglify on the sample, and then we can do something like this, Maven install. And then it runs, and it does stuff, and here we go, Uglify. And then if we do run like this. So here is the awesome function that's getting uglified. You know, it says awesomify, and it adds a string. There's some bad naming going on. You know, it doesn't look very nice. But once we run it in the browser, in sample 1, then you can see that. Oh, can you see it? Should I make it bigger? There you go. It's minified, and I had uglify make some sense out of the variables, like the code quality tools that I mentioned, or the compression tools that I mentioned. So granted, there are Maven projects that can do this, but all of the other good stuff is still to come, right? So bear with me. So back to the slides. But the victory wasn't quite there yet, because we actually had a business goal, or we made one up afterwards, because the goal was frictionless sharing of front-end components throughout our company. Yay! Which basically meant we could like share JavaScript without making it into Maven war files and all that stupid stuff that you're forced to do in order to comply with Maven standards. And we thought that Node package modules would enable us to reach our goal. Because, as everyone who's ever done this says, JavaScript libraries shouldn't have to be Java war artifacts. You know, no sane person would ever do that. So we invented the common cuckoo approach. So that would basically mean we put this node egg into the Maven repository. which is awesome because that means we can have standalone Node modules deployed to Maven repositories. The Maven project won't know it's a Node module, and the front-end developers would be good to go and writing awesome Node code instead of having to use Maven all the time. So Gregor Schrig was the guy who wrote it, and it works brilliantly, and yeah. Let's see what it looks like. So we have the Gorilla project up here, which is just a simple module which returns I am a gorilla, not particularly useful. So in the package JSON, we have a dependency for Maven deploy module. And here's the module being used. So those of you who speak Mavenish will notice that this looks very much like stuff you would do in a Maven POM file. So what the Maven deploy module actually does, it just takes whatever is in the dist folder, zips it, and then uses Maven and uploads it to the Maven repository like Nexus or whatever. So this is brilliant because I can work with all of the Node tools and write common JS modules, use Browserify and all that stuff, and still have a legacy Maven Java web application use it. So all you need to do is just add some Browserify code to it, and you're good to go. So what does that look like? Oh, the spelling. So we run npm package, and you'll see it actually uses Maven from the command line and just executes the install in this case, because I don't have a repository, but it would also make work for deploying to remote repositories. And what I can do is that I can go back into my Trojan project, and I can go in here, because then we could use this thing, which is just a regular dependency, just like any other Maven vor archive. But in this case, it's a JavaScript file. So I can fire it up and run Tomcat, and we should be seeing something, I am gorilla or something. Let's hope. Hey! So let's see the code. So this is a pretty useless web page. It just calls the function gorilla. And here it is, all browserified in its beauty. And here's the module, the Node module code that we saw earlier. So this is pretty cool, but I don't like this thing. I don't like having to declare it as a Maven dependency and upload it to the Nexus or whatever, because that doesn't make much sense. So we can do better. So let's do better. So let's comment in this one. So why don't we just use, like we have Node and we have npm already, right? Why don't we just add the Gorilla dependency to the package JSON for the module? And then we use the awesome front-end Maven plugin. And what this does is just, I didn't explain that earlier, did I? Because what you do is that you have two goals in the Maven front-end plugin. One is npm and the other is Node. And you can guess what they do, right? They execute Node or npm. And then in this case, it executes npm with the run build.js, which is a task in here which uses Browserify, and then it bundles it using Uglify, and that enables us to remove the stupid dependency from the Maven repository and just use plain Node modules in the legacy Maven app. And yes, it's a legacy Maven app. So let's see. So here we have, it says, I am a gorilla. But this time it's slightly different, because, oh, I did this all wrong. You should see this code first. Sample 3. So this is the code that actually gets run in the browser. So I can write common JS modules. I just require the dependency as if I was working in a Node app. And then I set the inner HTML and call the function on the gorilla, and then it says I am a gorilla. So it's pure NPM modules in the Java legacy application. So that is pretty cool. At least we thought it was pretty cool. And there's a Gulp plugin if you use Gulp, and if you use Broccoli or Grunt, you can write the plugin. It's not hard. Even I managed to do it, so it can't be that difficult. So are there some things that we haven't done yet? Sure. Some of the tools for live reloading, we need to make them work with Tomcat or Jetty or whatever, and also make the workflow with IntelliJ and similar IDEs a bit better. But in general, this is the approach that we use on all our modules right now. So all our newer modules, if they have to be Java modules, they use the Maven frontend plugin, and all of the front-end developers gets to enjoy the joy of Node. So that is pretty cool. So what we did, we've been on this journey, and during that journey, we decided, why don't we just create all the internal apps using Node? So we bribed or forced, or at least we made ops install Node on some servers, and then all of our internal dashboards for displaying KPIs or build status or whatever, they were all written in Node, because it's really about showing people how powerful it is as a platform and building applications. So you should show them, not just tell them that it's great. And what it enables you to do is that it enables you to convince people, and people can try it out. And at Finn, we're in the process of rolling out our first Node apps to real customers. So it's no longer just Java applications that we're using. Almost every new internal app is written in Node, not because I love it, but because everyone realizes it's so much faster than all the other methods that we used to do. We have 40+ developers sign up for an internal Node School I/O event, and we have developers engaged in Node activities all over the place. So it's not just about me forcing everyone, but it's really about a group of developers, 3 or 4, just showing off how awesome this platform is, and gradually making changes and not pissing people off by just putting Node in there and making it terrible for everyone, which is not a good idea. So some of the things you can do is you can use tools like StatsD, which is awesome for collecting metrics and displaying them in a graphical manner. So this is something we use for things like uptime, and you can have it for CPU and hardware stuff, but we also use this for business metrics, like how many people have shared a Finn ad in the last couple of minutes. So whenever we deploy something and something goes wrong, we would see a dip in that metrics. So it's basically about real-time monitoring of business events, not just CPUs and requests per second or whatever. And you can write Phantom.js powered tests, because browser testing is tedious, and running them through Firefox or whatever takes too long. So you can use Phantom to write cooler tests than you would ever be able to do with the browser. Because in Phantom, you have complete control over the I/O going in and out of the browser. So you can detect a lot of things that is not possible in Firefox. Stupid things like unit testing if a tracking beacon is being fired, which is not possible without tools like Phantom. Or you can write silly dashboards showing off tweets, which I've done. Oh, but I can't, My project manager won't let me. My Scrum Master makes me do stupid things. And it's like, come on, take some fucking responsibility for your own happiness. You can do this as of right now. There are so many cloud services out there we can just sign up and have a Node app deployed and running in 5 minutes. Like the guy who was here earlier with Azure Joyent, Heroku, Nojitsu, DigitalOcean. There are so many options. So you don't have to wait for your internal IT department to do this. You can do this if you want to, right now. And if you start showing off how powerful this platform is, nobody's going to stop you. Your boss is not going to say, oh, no, that's too good. We don't want apps rolling out that fast. Nobody's going to say that. So it's basically up to you guys to start doing this and proving that it's better. Not talking about it, but actually doing. Because the one thing as a front-end developers that you should never, ever do is to keep calm and keep going. You need to start the revolution right now, this minute. And I've shown you one way of doing it in a legacy Java app. You can do the same approach in a .NET app, and it's basically up to you to make your own happiness. So that's about it. So the silly samples are available on GitHub. If you want to work where I work, sign up. If you have any questions or abuse or whatever, that's the Twitters. And if not, I'm not going to keep you from the beers. Or just one more talk, right? Yeah, okay. So I'm not going to keep you from that one. So thank you very much.